Donald Trump has, of course, been talking a lot about President Biden's so-called cognitive decline recently. And it all started a couple weeks ago when we did get that poll out. Fox News talked about it, and it basically said that a lot of voters were like, yeah, Biden's too old. But the same poll found that most voters also said Trump's too old. So Trump tried to create the distinction that, hey, there's a difference between age and cognitive decline. Because you can be young and have cognitive decline. My age has nothing to do with that. For the record, he's actually right about that. Just so everybody knows, he is right, technically. But Donald Trump has now made it a point to bring up candidates and politicians' cognitive abilities. So it's only fair that we talk about his, right? Because in the last week and a half, Donald Trump has had multiple times where he has just basically had these massive brain farts and start saying things that make absolutely no sense. Recently, of course, he said that President Biden, if he wins in 2024, was going to march us straight into World War II. World War II could happen, Trump says, if Biden gets reelected. We had the one World War already, but we could have a second one. Because we did not have a World War II, apparently. But Biden will push us into that, Trump said. So that's a pretty big thing. And then, of course, this past week, Donald Trump actually said that he beat Jeb Bush in the 2016 primary because Jeb Bush is the one who marched us into Iraq. I mean, Trump said he got us into the Middle East. How did that work out, right? That's a different Bush. That was George W. Bush, who had been out of office for 8 years by the time you faced up against his brother Jeb. So you actually thought that Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, was the one who was president, and you beat him in a primary. And that's not the only person he beat, by the way, in 2016, because Trump then went on to say that with Obama, we won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. So in 2016, Donald Trump running for president beat both Jeb Bush, the architect of the Iraq War, and President Obama, who was apparently seeking his third term in office, which is not constitutionally allowed. But Trump beat them both, by God. So you got one of your opponents completely wrong, and you confuse the history of the other one. And you're the one saying that your cognitive abilities are just like the greatest, the best. There's nothing wrong with your brain. You genuinely want us to believe that you are still operating at peak mental capacity here when you don't even know how many world wars we've already had? Now, Amanda Marcotti, writing for Salon.com, had this to say about it. And I want to read this because I think she absolutely nails it here. While Trump, who likes to call Biden cognitively impaired, got widely mocked on social media for this, the audience he's speaking to doesn't seem to notice their god is brain farting. That's because Trump fans don't actually listen when Dear Leader is talking. Instead, they wait for him to say buzzwords they can cheer, like lock her up. But otherwise, they tune him out. After all, MAGA is an authoritarian movement based on tribalistic politics. Merit-based systems allow women and people of color to rise up, which is intolerable to the GOP base. What Trump says is not important. What they like about him is he's rich, white, male, and a bully. There's no way to know from afar what's going on with Trump. On one hand, he's 77 years old and his own father died of Alzheimer's. On the other hand, Trump's narcissism has long fueled a willingness to lie shamelessly about his own supposed accomplishments, from making up golf scores even pros can't achieve, to pretending he had a chance with women who hated him, to falsifying charitable donations, to claiming his inauguration drew crowds that it didn't. So the question is, are these gaffes by Donald Trump, these, brain farts, as Marcotti points out, are they because there are signs of decline happening there, possibly actual diseases causing decline? Or is it Trump's own narcissism that is causing his brain to just rewrite events of the past to make himself feel better. We're not mental health professionals. We haven't seen brain scans of Donald Trump, so we cannot make that determination. All we can say is that if we're going to talk about people saying things that don't make sense, right? Because the media loves to talk about it with Biden. That's headlines for weeks, right? These gaffes by Donald Trump, they live on social media for a few hours and then they die. So if we're going to talk about candidates not being, fully there, then Trump has to be at the top of that conversation. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.